So, good evening, gentlemen.
Hi.
Good evening and welcome, to all our viewers. This is the fourth and the final segment of HPROP Malaysia's webinar series held in conjunction with HPROP Malaysia's Virtual Property Expo, which we call VPEX 2021. But with borders reopening, interest in real estate is definitely moving up a notch. I'm sure our friend Anthony and as well as Joe and Andrew will tell you. So if you have not visited the VPEX Expo site yet, please do go to www.hprop.my to check it out. Well, interestingly, one of the things that people typically do, I don't know whether it's something that's unique in Malaysia or not, once they collect the keys to their new real estate purchase, be it a new brand new home on the primary market or from the secondary market, the first thing that they do is renovations, fit out, and the cost of these operations can really swing from a few thousand ringgit, which is very rare, to tens of thousands and even to hundreds of thousands of ringgit, right? And some of these may be owner-occupier. They may end up staying in that unit, or they may actually opt to join the league of the landlords. But whatever it is, a lot of money actually goes into renovation and IDing of new homes, right? And we all know that, for the first time house buyer, especially, renovations and fit-out investment could potentially turn bad. They can be actually a very, very expensive lesson indeed, right? So that's the topic that we're going to discuss today. To all those viewers out there, if you're buying your property, especially your first property, should you be fitting out your property? Or should you not do anything before you put it out for rent or for sale? And indeed, if you should choose to renovate and put in some interior design, how far should you go, right? So before we actually, start off the discussion, allow me to very quickly introduce our panel of speakers for this evening, all of whom will be sharing their thoughts on common but costly renovation and interior design mistakes. First off, we have Anthony Leety. Anthony, yes, hi, Anthony. Anthony helms Architect Centre, which is a subsidiary of PAM. Anthony is a building inspector and a trainer as well. He has over 3 decades of experience spanning multidisciplinary areas in architecture, project management, as well as construction, not only in Malaysia, but in the region, where Anthony believes that every property owner should have the best our industry could provide. And after having inspected hundreds of properties, Anthony's vision is simple. We can do it right, first time, every time.
Thank you.
Next, we have Joe. Joe W.H. Chan is the principal of Design Tone Interior Practice. Welcome, Joe. This is a medium-sized, multidisciplinary interior design practice based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And Joe brings with him more than 2 decades of experience in interior design and project management as well. And besides being a practitioner, Joe actually, spends time lecturing in interior design and architecture in several universities and colleges in Malaysia. And of course, his practice has garnered numerous international and local design awards as well. And Joe is currently serving as honorary treasurer to the Malaysian Institute of Interior Designers, and has been a council member since 2018. Next, and of course, last but not least, we have Andrew Tan, a real estate negotiator with Redview Properties headquarters. Yes. Andrew brings the theme today, to our table, 12 years at the Redview Properties headquarters. You've been with them for 12 years, right, Andrew?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Well, this is the interesting bit. Andrew calls himself Desa Park City Centric Rent. He stays there, and he is also known as the fearless negotiator of DPC. He says
That's
that is
my
his stage name. Yeah. Okay, but just aside, Andrew was an ex-stockbroker, and he was also active in corporate finance before. Yeah, welcome, gentlemen. Yes. Let's get our chit-chat going. First off, what do you think, gentlemen, what is it about renovation and new homes? I mean, when I say new, it doesn't necessarily mean brand new, right? A new buy. What is the fixation on renovation and interior design? Maybe we can just quickly go around and then, we can settle on something to just dive in. Anthony, would you like to start?
Yeah, thank you, Fong Yi, for the introduction. I think the homes that we generally buy, say if you're buying a new home in Malaysia, generally you can't move in with your luggage. You're going to have to at least do the basic things. Your kitchen, all they have is just a sink with a tap. So obviously, you don't have cupboards. You don't have your wardrobes. So I think most of the homes we get has got basic finishes, basic utilities, but it's not ready for occupation. So I think from the outset, most homeowners that buy into a new property will going to have to do some level of renovations. And also what we have seen is that some of these houses don't have enough space in certain parts. They bought into the property. So some of them even have to do extensions, not only just interior work.
Joe, do you agree that the houses that we find on the market right now, they are actually not suitable for occupation, like what Anthony has pointed out? Do you share his view?
Yes, definitely. You see some of the houses, right? In fact, when you take a vacant possession or when you come to possession, you only see the piping only for the aircon. You don't even see the aircon units, right? Because the developer only provide you that basic. So in other words, it's actually not a livable space yet. So like what Anthony has mentioned, there's a lot of things that you need to put in, to be a livable space. Even the sink, they gave you a basic sink, So that's why nowadays it's very common that people, once they get the key, straight away it's renovation, or how extensive it is, knocking down walls to fit in more people or put in more rooms. So I think it's a common market trend in Malaysia.
Yeah. Andrew, how about you? What's your take on this?
Well, in my perspective is mainly because I handle sub-sale in Desa Park City, and I sub-specialize in landed properties. Typically, the houses that even say 5-6 years old, all the way to 15 years old, the buyers are younger sets, typically. And usually there's quite a bit of renovations that entail. I would say maybe of the houses I transact, maybe less than 20% are untouched essentially. Whether it's for own stay or for rental ahead, because of the level of renovation and the so-called timeless designs. But there's no such real thing as timeless design. Everything goes in and out of fat anyway. But some level of renovations, would typically be needed.
Okay, this is very interesting, gentlemen, because if we were to speak to developers today, they will probably offer us a different perspective. I'm just repeating, what I've been told over and over again, because developers' take is that if you were to try and give your buyers a complete home, they'll come in and hack down the walls anyway.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of cost involved, So I'm not sure whether, yes, maybe, it's not suitable for whatever reason. But I don't know whether, it's just this thing, to just run in and put in your rubber stamp. Maybe Joe can share with us your experience from your clients. When people typically want to renovate their home, what is the objective? Do they even have an objective? Or are they just doing just because, they just want to make sure that they keep up with the Jonases down the road,
Yeah, there's many various reasons, definitely, when they want to renovate their home. Of course, now, there's a current trend that we notice, especially most of our clients, right? It's just that it becomes such a trend that you see your friends doing renovation and you just want to follow the bandwagon. Somehow or rather, you want to do some sort of renovation, It's, I think, previously or olden days, right? Normally you just move in your, you buy basic furniture and put it in, nothing is customized, Nowadays, everything has to be choreographed. Somehow or other choreographed, too choreographed, I would say, that's the trend now, And then I think, like what just now when we are chatting, I think it is because of the, now it's so easily you obtain it from Instagram or Facebook and over the net, So it becomes such a trendy thing to showcase your house in a way. So yeah, so that is what we observe over this couple of years.
But choreography can be pretty expensive, yeah?
Yes. So that's why, the cost can go from what a typical condo, which is a size, let's say 1,000 square feet, it can go from what 20,000 to 200,000 or even 300,000 easily, depending on the extent, So I would say typically easily 80,000 minimum, is very normal nowadays. Yeah.
So 80,000 as a percentage to the, price tag of the unit, how many percent are we looking at? Because 80,000 for a 2 million apartment, there's nothing, right?
Oh, I'm talking about property, which is probably about 600,000 or 800,000 sort of that segment, you see. We're not even talking about 1, 2 million, 1, 2 million, perhaps. Sometimes you just refurbish the kitchen, it's already 100,000,
Wow.
Yeah.
So we are looking at anything that's typically that's actually more than 10% then.
Definitely.
10 to 15%. 10 to 15%.
Easy. I would say nowadays it's very common that people even spend 25 to 30%. That's a baseline.
Wow.
Yeah.
That would include all the loose furnishing, right? The curtains and the rugs and the paintings.
Yeah. Basic, I would say basic, because sometimes may not necessarily involve the loose furniture, because sometimes loose furniture, a sofa can cost you 80,000. So I'm just thinking, because we spend so much renovation on carpentry works, you don't, no walls are bad, you have a paneling, wood paneling, wallpaper, expensive wallpaper. Then curtains in a condominium could cost you 8 to 10,000 easily, a nice fabric. So I think it doesn't, to me, my opinion, it doesn't commensurate necessarily with the property that you buy, because sometimes you'll be surprised that people buy, 500,000-600,000 property. They're really willing to spend 100,000 just to renovate, because to them it's the haven, So yeah.
Yeah, haven for how long, right? Before the next trend kicks in, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Maybe share with us, Andrew, your experience, because I think, you are in the market whereby people are like moving in, moving out, right? Is that the market expectation?
For a lot of the buyers, yes. Like I said, a lot of designs are a little dated, even after 6 years, 5-6 years. And a lot of time, Desert Park is such that the yields are quite poor if you're looking for rental yield for landed. So you're sub 3%. So you typically I'm selling houses that are ex rentals or in the process of being rented. And then buyers come mostly for own stay. Now, I would say only 5% would buy for investment. We're talking about landed properties. And the renovations will pretty much be very basic for tenants. Most owners would say good enough for tenant. It's up to them to embellish the house with their own furnishing, but very basic. Something that the buyers here wants their own personality, their own style embedded in the house. A bit of a showpiece, and people do tend to spend quite a bit of money here, like in renovations. It's very rare that we just move in, paint the house, and that's it. So typically a whole anywhere from changing kitchen drapes, lights, to real a gut job lah. So half of the properties here are strata title. So half the battles won. They can't do much externally. So everything is focused internally. That means all the way like solid wood floors, ground floor, brand new kitchen, fit out. So it can run to a point where they actually overcapitalize the property. And then it's hard for them. It's hard for me to sell it for them like 3 years, 5 years down the line because the costs involved. And we've seen some fantastic things here happen. Say a sub $3 million house, they spend about $1 million. Solid marble floors, and then 6 months later, they come and say, Andrew, the house is actually a bit small for me. I should have followed you up to the hillside. You're stuck because now it's maybe 2-3 cycles ahead of its pricing. After your renovation.
Right.
So that is the danger when they spend too much. You overcapitalize the property. We discussed earlier. It's feel good for how long.
Does that happen very often, Andrew?
Not very often. People do, like Joe said, get carried away sometimes. Nice to have, obviously they can't afford it. My clients are quite well heeled here. They can't afford it, but my perspective, is always like, you will like me, you will continue to upgrade over the years here as family expands, you have, bigger ambition, So it does maybe 5%, I would say, do quite extensive renovations to the point that they're stuck, like, in a sense.
Wow.
But in a way,
I
a
can
good way
imagine,
stuck.
to plow in 1 million, in a 3 million property. Wow, that's no wonder Joe is doing so well.
looks good. I still haven't moved to Desert Park City yet. Andrew is doing better.
Right. Yeah. Anthony,
I mean, I think the last shocking one was actually up in the Hillside Mansions. On the the release of MCO1, a client came, sold him a $6.5 million house up in the hills, mansions. It actually looked quite nice. The French family really enjoyed their 2 years there, and I thought it was quite decent. A little bit dated, but some updating of wallpaper and stuff. But he proceeded to spend more than $1 million. Like, of course, when I was invited back in, it was just jaw-dropping stunning. So so that kind of like makes you weak in the knees,
So
and I was
so we
wrong.
cannot say the market is soft, right? We cannot say the market is soft, right? So the market is very
not
very
in that
bullish.
sector.
Yeah. Anthony, you have inspected hundreds of buildings, from big to small, landed to strata and what have we, right? What is your take, when you look at, how people have renovated the units, for instance? What is the thing that actually jumps out at you?
Well, I think first and foremost, from a very basic level, is that when they move into a house or they bought into a property, and a lot of times, a lot of the finishes are very good already. Although it's a bare finish, they don't have furniture. Most of the time today, the finishes are fairly good quality. The doors are fairly good quality. The door frames are fairly good quality. But what happens is people rip it out. So that's the part that always puzzles me. They rip it out and then they put in something else that actually, or they cover it up with other things. So these are kind of like very, very puzzling things, first and foremost. But what I actually see for myself is that my concerns are when they make certain renovations that they don't understand some of the building services that are there to help protect them. Wiring, gas connections, even building structure. They hack stuff down and they although they know they shouldn't hack, but somebody invariably go and hack something, and then oops, we shouldn't have hacked that. Especially they hack off columns and beams and concrete slabs, and when you're in a strata property, high-rise strata, they start making openings, changing stuffs that and also when they do the interior work, a lot of the wiring that they do is actually done by substandard wire people, because the carpenter comes in and the carpentry work is done, and then somebody else just with a test pen, and everybody's an electrician and a plumber. So I think we've seen a lot of these safety issues. In homes itself, not a lot of things, not a lot of laws to break. But if you are, say, refurbishing an office, where you are actually doing interior design of your own office, say whether you are in a strata office or whether you are refurbishing, say, a part of your strata building where you have a service apartment, where you have sprinklers and when you have smoke detectors and so forth, you find that a lot of them don't like the look of those things, and they kind of like push it up in the ceiling and then out of sight, out of mind. So these are the kind of like a scary things that we do see. That when we point this out to them, most of them just kind of say, "So what?" That safety factor of them, beauty is more important than the safety aspects of it. So what we find that because some of these homes, they are connected to the main control panel. For example, you talk about the smoke detectors and the fire detectors and sprinklers. It's all connected to a system, to a main control panel. And the moment a house is renovated, it flashes up, and if you cut the cables, it flashes up in the main control panel, and it will remain flashing till you fix it. So what happens is that people eventually get hundreds of these blinking lights in a property, and it goes out of control. So when you actually do get a fire or an emergency, nobody can tell you whether it's a false alarm or a real alarm. So I think those are the kind of things that we do see over and over again.
Actually, what about
Joe? Do you get that, Joe?
Yes, it happens very often. That's why I think that boils down to one thing, whether you're appointed a really reliable and good contractor.
Yeah.
Because that is very important. Homeowners or client or office office owners or not. I think we have seen also very ridiculous things like what Anthony's. They plug off the sprinkler point. So that you hide all these to them the ugly or non nice things. Where they're supposed to have all this alarm panel that rip off the wires and whatnot. It's very common. That's why I said it's important that you have a very reliable contractor.
Andrew, for you, how important is this safety issue with your clients when they're looking at a building? For instance, do they ask you questions such as these, or are they just interested in the kind of marble that you have in the unit?
No, quite a bit. I think the buyers here are quite sophisticated, and then when you have the expert buyers, as we discussed, their standards are a bit higher. So we usually hire building inspectors like Architect Center and the others that are out there to actually surface things that are latent, things that you do not see with your naked eye. So seepage is very high on the list of to watch out for. Of course, structural, but that's really, as I see, just very visual based, structural. And then, of course, the telltale signs like hairline cracks, repeating pattern hairline cracks, things like that are being watched now. Even the buyers themselves know how to nowadays look out for these telltale signs. So their standards are a bit higher. Local buyers, essentially, they do look out more. More importantly, I think half my clients, more important for them is the feng shui requirements rather than the actual house. To them, the whole requirement, I mean, the house, anything can be sorted kind of attitude. But the feng shui seems to be the most important for a lot of clients here.
Wow.
But again, telltale signs like mildew, smells, seepage, quite common. And then of course general condition of the house. So and of course when we have houses up in the hillside where you have double volume ceilings, more and more of them, it's my job to advise them to say, get a certification in terms of the load and how you build, let's say, extension over the floor plate, over the double volume ceiling. That's important. And a lot of them were still like, why is that important? I said, well, one is your assurance of safety. Number two, when you sell it, those questions will come. How did you build it? Do you have a certification from a structural engineer or architect? So these are important going forward. So again, these are things that I point out because we see it all the time.
Yes.
So that's I think is unfortunately feng shui is on the top of the list for a lot of clients.
Anthony, back to you. You know, this question about using panel to cover up certain stuff and things like that. What about the type of material? Because we know that, you know, there are a lot of materials out there that actually are not condoned for safety reasons. Maybe you just want to share with us the cases that you have been confronted, and, you know, what are these and what were the problems?
Yeah, that's actually a very relevant question. I'm glad you brought that up. Material seems to, you know, that I know that often used in interior work would basically be plywood. A lot of plywood is used. And plywood, you know, they shape up panels with walls and things like that, and with timber frames. And then what they put over the plywood, you know, and how they hold the plywood together are basically glue, and they also use a lot of fabrics. So I think plywood itself, with the manufacturing of plywood, a lot of people are not aware that plywood itself has got a lot of formaldehydes. You know, because the plywood itself, the timber they use are generally quite, you know, it's kind of like scrap timber, like, you know, they're not really good quality solid wood. So it's a manufactured wood. So I think they have a lot of formaldehydes in there, stuff that to prevent growth of bacteria and fungus and mold and so forth. So that's why plywood itself is actually a huge problem as far as how it affects the indoor air quality. The other one would be the glues. You know, the solvent glues. The glues themselves also emit a lot of volatile organic compounds. We call it VOCs. Yes. And now we also have found that, you know, even fabrics, that a lot of the fabrics that are used for curtains, for lining of walls and things like that, they also contain this fire retardants. And these fire retardants themselves, you know, it serves the purpose of preventing it from burning, but it's also very toxic. Now, those are the ones that I think the industry can deal with. But those are the ones that are the unseen ones, are the ones that actually I want to highlight. You know, often now we hear about nano coatings. You heard about nano this, nano that. But one of the things that we found in some of our inspections are that a lot of tiles today, the floor tiles, the very nice porcelain floor tiles today. In fact, most of them have got this liquid nano coating that is applied, and this nano coating is supposed to be applied so that it doesn't stain, you know. But this nano coating itself, you know, is so small. You know, everybody knows how small nano is. It can absorb in through your skin as you walk on it at home. So the long-term effects at this stage, actually nobody knows, because nobody actually knows what these nano coatings are all about. So I think this is another area. And if you see the interior work that in a property, in a room, for example, in your living room or in the kitchen, the wall and the ceiling and the floor takes up the most of the surfaces. So it's important the types of paints that you choose needs to be one that have got low VOC or zero VOCs. So I think those are the main areas that we should take care of, other than, you know, the other things that you may buy in, you know, things that you bring in that have got, you know, a lead in the paint and mercury and other type, most of those kind of issues.
Joe, maybe just share with us how are our, Malaysian market, are they discerning in this area in the selection of material, besides, you know, considering the element of cost, obviously, and aesthetic? What about the safety, you know, the livability and the sustainability of the material? Is it something that Malaysians or, you know, people in Malaysia are particular about?
Well, I think that it's very different nowadays. Is the consciousness definitely has improved quite tremendously. A lot of people, even like a lot of developers, people are talking about green interior. So which something that Anthony touches on just now. About those low VOC. And I think it's the awareness is definitely there. But I think the only setback is people have this sort of impression that when you want to do something which is green or consciousness towards the environment, it's always expensive. But I beg to be a bit different, because I always think that you have to start from somewhere, because paint is paint. Paint is not expensive. So select a low VOC paint or a non-VOC paint, or adhesive can be also low VOC. It's still the same price. A lot of vinyl floorings are, resilient flooring is also green. So these are very easy, attainable material, which doesn't cost a lot. And yes, to answer your question, I think people are very particular, especially, the question of the height that, Anthony highlighted just now. In fact, my client 2 days ago asking me the same question when we start having a lot of built-ins, so they're asking us how do we flush out all this pollution, right? So I think that shows that, I think generally Malaysians are kind of, aware, and it's something that I think is raised a concern already. Yeah.
Oh, good to know that. Andrew, what about you? I mean, your clientele is really, the high end, the really high end type. Is sustainability and this kind of internal air quality something that bothers your client? Do they ask questions?
No, so far no. It's all pretty much focused on looks lah.
I think the concern maybe for the lay person is more on the moles, because it's very visible. So they always, water seepage create moles. They know that moles are harmless. Harmful. So I think generally that is the visible thing. But like what Anthony says, those VOC is not visible. So until people, when you watch a movie or whatever, when people touch on that, they start to ring up some bells. You see, I think. Sorry,
Yeah. So Andrew, you could be the agent, of change.
Maybe, perhaps. I have to be trained by Anthony and Joe first,
Yeah.
To sell green, sell green, sell safe.
Yeah, but will it be a deal breaker for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, deal breaker. Yes.
When we talk about green here, it's the greenery. That's all at the moment.
Oh, wow. Okay. You have lots of those in TBC, right? There's a Park City.
Yeah, less and less, but you're okay for now.
Right. So, Anthony, back to you. Besides VOC, what are the hidden dangers that one actually do not get to see when they walk into a place that has been like done up, to the T, for instance? What are those detailing that, normally people like me won't know, but you would know? Maybe you should help enlighten our viewers.
Okay. Well, since Andrew has spoken a bit about landed strata, that they don't do a lot of extension work on the outside, maybe I want to cover a little bit about a large market segment who are in homes or landed properties, who can renovate to the back of the house, or if you have a semi-D or bungalow, you extend on 3 sides or whatever it is. You find that many of these people will get the contractor first before they even get a consultant or an architect or engineer. They talk to the contractor, and the contractor will say, I taught him everything for you. No authorities, no problem. I settle everything. I get engineer, everything, pow. And the owner is also happy, because the owner says, I don't want to deal with all this, people. So I just want to deal with you. And today I'm told that from statistics, just in Subang Jaya alone, there's 30,000 illegal renovations, landed property, that means terrace houses, whether they're corner house or intermediate, that has renovated the back or the front in some way without plans. And what we've seen for those kind of properties, the unseen danger is actually the structure. Many of them don't even have a proper structural engineer to go in and do the extensions. and they built over the sewer line, because there is a manhole at the back of the house, and they built the kitchen, nice kitchen where they prepare the food over the manhole, and here it is, you're preparing food over your own shit, yeah. So and so as a result of that, the original bathroom now is actually, which was actually at the back of the old wall, is now on the inside, and most people don't want to do much to the bathroom because it's a bit messy. So now the bathroom ventilates into your kitchen or your makan area at the back, or a bedroom and things like that. So I think that kind of biohazards, are real, and because the houses themselves were not built with proper piling, a lot of the lines, the sewer lines and the water lines underneath this building actually cracks and breaks. So not only you get leaks, but you also get a lot of toxic materials from your own feces underneath your building, and it somehow finds its way, back to the back drain and things like that. So I think that's one area, that we've seen a lot, but it's becoming like the norm. People live with that now.
Yeah, Joe, maybe you could just help us to understand what is happening in the market a little bit more.
Okay.
Do you find clients coming to you to say that, hey, I want, now it's 3 room, I want 5 rooms. If you need to do what Anthony has just shared with us, so be it. I don't care. I just want 5 rooms. I mean, do you find situations like that?
Well, I think I would like to answer in, it depends on your ethics, right? Most of the time, I think some designer says, okay, you want 5 rooms, we find ways to do 5 rooms for you. But I'm talking about my own practice, because we engage with all other consultants. We don't claim that we are an expert. I claim that to be an expert in interior design. So when we have cases like that, we engage is basically the structural engineer. And of course, for submission and also to review the whole drawings, we always look for the architect. So we work with a group of consortium of professionals, right? And of course, client always comes with their wish list, 3 rooms to 5 rooms. Sometimes it's just impossible. We just have to break the sad news to them. It's impossible. So in fact, it's really funny because this question resonates so well, because I have a client who wanted to have 8 rooms in his terrace houses. Terrace house. He just sent me the layout. He wanted 8 rooms. So I was cracking. I said, okay, maybe you can. It's probably smaller than your dog kennel. If you have 8 rooms in your terrace house. So So I hope I answered you that question.
Yeah. Right. So yes, Andrew. I know that the clientele that you deal with is actually not the run of the mill, right? But nevertheless, for say not landed lah, maybe for high rise in DPC,
Yes.
If I have just say bought a unit and I intend to rent it out, what would your advice to me? Do I fully furnish it? Do I partly furnish it, or what do I do?
Actually, Desert Park is quite good in the sense that most of the condos are handled with air cons. Typically, all the kitchen fit out is very decent. Also, essentially, when you buy off plan, or even it comes quite ready. So it's essentially soft furnishing, some wardrobes, and that's it. Some lighting, fans, and that's it. So in terms of the rental market, again, it's very specific. My clients mostly depends on size and budget. But anyone that is say below, Desert Park, and there's nothing below 2 anyway, 3,000. It's 4 to 6, I would say. Typically, they require full furnished, and then anything higher, they will come with their own, container, or they will buy their own furniture. Most of the expats are on the travel, kind of lifestyle anyway. Career moves and stuff. So typically, if the unit is not furnished, I always advise my clients hold on first until we have a firm offer. We work it. The challenge is then once you furnish it, then the next set of tenants then don't require. Then what do you do with furniture? It's always sunk cost essentially lah. But more importantly, I think the advice is to be very neutral, very Scandi look, rather than from the run-of-the-mill Chinaman shops,
Yes.
which the Europeans don't quite get. But we still get a lot of those. So far, no pink and polka dots so far. But still some hideous looking furniture still, unfortunately, which doesn't quite resonate with a lot of customers. Definitely for
Yeah.
Japanese clients, very specific. They need brand new. They need very, I wouldn't say expensive, but tastefully done, very neutral, and that's the safest for most tenants anyway.
Yeah. But that's the problem, right? Because taste is something that's so individualistic, right? So on your part, how do you convince your client not to do polka dots, for their sofa, for instance?
Well, it depends on whether you are doing it for yourself or you are renting it out. Of course, renting it out, we will always try to be a bit safe. Our advice is always safe, safe in the sense that you don't follow trend as long as is something that is pleasing to in the general public. So example, those very Muji style, light palette wood colors, those are always the safest mode lah. You don't hate it, but you may not necessarily like it, but you definitely don't hate it. That's sort of safety modes. But of course, for people who buy property and renovate for their own personal use, I would say don't follow trend. Because that's the biggest mistake. You follow trend is the biggest mistake, because follow what you like, because trends comes and go. Right? We have clients that at one time Scandi was in trend, so he renovated his house with the Scandi sort of style, but he never liked light wood. He always loved dark wood. So at the end of the day, they spend so much money restaining all the furniture to dark wood. He stayed on 1-2 months. So my advice is actually, if your own stay, don't follow trend. I think it's the biggest mistake to actually follow trend. Just follow your heart. If you like the polka dot sofa, by all means buy a polka dot sofa.
That's interesting, Anthony. You actually were shopping around, for units not too long ago. Maybe you want to share with us, some of the designs that you have seen, as a user, as a potential client, right? Renting, these units. What was your reaction? Were they hideous? Were they like, basically definite no? Maybe just share with us.
Yeah. Well, during this MCO time, you find that there's been a lot of requests for people to they had to stay somewhere during the MCO. People couldn't travel, so they couldn't leave back to the country. They had to stay in Malaysia. So the experiences that I had was that a lot of the units that were decked out, that were re-renovated, ready to go, they were very inflexible with the design, meaning that the beds themselves, for example, were all stuck on the floor. The room is very small already, but somehow or other they like to put in double beds, for example. And the beds are stuck in the middle of the room with the bed head panels, with the 2 side tables, with lights and all that. And it's a showpiece. But this showpiece, you can't move. So when you got clients who's looking for a room that they could just say, look, I want 2 single rooms because I got 2 kids staying in there, or I got, I want, or somebody who wants to just say, look, I need 2 beds rather than 1 single bed. They can't do it because the bed is stuck in the middle of the room. And literally you have to rip it out. But, how can you rip it out? Because the floor is built around it. The other area that I've seen very peculiar is that there's this trend about making platforms, when you got a perfectly fine, flat, nice, beautiful timber floor. And I don't know why they had to build platforms, to break up levels and things like that. This puzzles me. And the other part that I've seen that is extremely peculiar is that, when you go into many of these units, it feels like you are in a show house. Mm-hmm. It feels like you're not in a place where you could, immediately bring your bags in. It's like, hey, what's this place? Why am I like part of part of this showpiece. Like you say, I think Joe, you mentioned choreograph, right?
Choreograph, yeah.
But some choreography is just,
Yes.
I mean, it's
Over the
beyond
top.
the polka dots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it should reflect a person's personality, if
Yeah.
you are own space. So it doesn't have to, choreograph.
Yeah.
So like I show you house, it's okay that your furniture, your sofa doesn't match your table doesn't match the console table, your dining chair doesn't match the dining table. It's okay because it's a reflection of your personality. I think that's more important. That's why it's a home, not a house. You see, it's a different.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, Joe and Andrew, give me your take on what Anthony just said. Does that make him a very difficult client?
It's very good. It's very specific. You see, for designer, we would like people to be very specific because
Yeah.
rather than very vague. I want modern, but your definition of modern could be this, it could be that. So it's very difficult. So it's good that
Yeah.
for us, we appreciate the
Yeah.
straightforwardness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
and,
actually, that brings me to my next question: fickle-mindedness. Do people actually know that being fickle can be a very costly affair? I mean, from your experience, Andrew and Joe.
So far, okay. My clients, in terms of renovating their house, they maybe put on a brave front and live with it for a few years. Certainly, I have a very different eye to some of the designs that they've come up with.
Yeah.
But usually they plan it out a lot now. And my process, and I've done this for many years now, is of course before MCO and COVID and stuff. Then usually I have this so-called paid forward program with clients. So when they buy a house, if they're shopping for a house, or have they signed the SPA, usually I ask permission from my top 2 or 3 clients that have done their house stunning, beautiful, in which acceptable, in fact, high end. I say, can we visit and embellish some ideas, or just get some ideas what to do, and just get a feel of the place. So the idea is, once you hop on this scheme, then you have to pay it forward too when you actually buy and move in and renovate. So it's a virtuous cycle. So I think that helps them visualize space. In terms of what if we have done this, we are okay with, a client has done this before. So I think mistakes aren't very often, I would say, because of the planning and the designer that's there, and they really know what they want before we start work, or before they start work. My process ends when I get my commission check anyway. So
I think Andrew, pointing them in the right direction is probably, where a lot of these mistakes can be avoided.
But
or maybe like what Andrew said, they're just putting on a brave front. Okay, 2 years down the road, you see something else. Okay, restaining the timber.
So
usually I offer to sell their house off, and then we upgrade them.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, but Joe, do you get a lot of fickle-minded clients? How do you deal with them? Or you welcome them because they're going to give you a lot of business,
Well, I think every client is fickle. Some are rather we are also fickle. It's just that I think we just have to point them to to more on facts and matters, like for example, the right material, experiences and whatnot. We have to manage them somehow rather. So I think fickle clients, what we say, right, costly. Actually, fickle clients, normally it costs us a lot of time. Well, it doesn't cost them, it costs us a lot of time, because we just have to keep on coming back with proposal and whatnot. So how we manage them, like what I said just now, I think if they are fickle with contractor, then they cost then it would be the other round. It cost them a lot of money, because why? Material being put there, we hack, remove, then they'll feel the pinch. With us, right, unfortunately, as consultant, right, they're constantly gonna be fickle, yeah. But I think track records, and examples is how we manage them,
No, interesting. So my next question for you, Joe, is,
Yes.
I've heard very often, that doing renovation work, small or big, a lot of domestic dispute actually arise. Husband and wife, maybe father-in-law, mother-in-law with son-in-law, how do you deal with that? And is that very common?
There are instances that I wouldn't say common. There are instances that because not so much of a husband and wife. I think mother-in-law and father-in-law more of that because how do we deal with that? Actually, what we always do, we always try to just establish in our very beginning one point of contact. So we try not to deal with too many parties. That's how we try to control that. So whatever happens in closed door, we don't want to know. But what we need to know is, this point of contact and give us the real direction. Because if not, you will end up talking to the mother-in-law, the father-in-law, the sisters, the siblings, the daughter, the son. It goes on and on. Yeah. So yes, it does happen. Right? Yeah.
Anthony, you actually are in all areas. You're an expert in all areas. You've actually done contracting, right, before. Do you have any experience with such circumstances whereby there are disputes on the other end, among themselves, and somehow you get drawn in?
Well, I think that's a really difficult thing to manage because especially when the job has already started at the site. So, there is even a clause in the contract that deals with this, and anytime there's a change, there's an impact on cost and time. But, owners have a short memory. So, and contractors don't have a short memory. So, you get immediately a flag up, red flags as far as, I never agreed to that. And as the contractor, sometimes we have to give and take. But, to a certain extent, if the changes are reasonable or they don't cost a lot of time, obviously, we try to manage it. But when the changes occur, when there is repetition, supposing we're building a hotel and I'm building 300 rooms or something and decking out 300 rooms of hotels, or we are refurbishing a place from an old hotel to a new hotel. Those are the kind of works when you got one change, there's a snowball effect that affects every room. And production could be already in the way in the factory, and then you are ready to ship out, and then somebody says, "Oops, I don't like that." Yeah, or some higher level management comes along and sees something, and they say, "Oh no, I don't like this sink, or I don't like this particular feature or something." Yeah. So we get that kind of thing, but again, like I said, signing off sheets, making sure that all the instructions are confirmed. That should try to reduce it. I cannot say avoid it totally.
Yeah. So Andrew, for you, maybe the experience could stem from definitely not a sale, but maybe rental. Maybe you have a prospective tenant say that I want the landlord to do this for me.
Sure.
You're still there because you wouldn't have collected all your comm yet, so you're still
Correct.
there. So, how do you deal with that, does that happen very often?
Okay, it does happen. Yeah, it happens in terms of rentals. Then obviously that sort of, I work on a recovery basis. And there are some, I wouldn't say fussy tenants, but more discerning tenants who want certain things done. So like now we're working on a Japanese tenant. Obviously, he doesn't like the pink curtains. I don't know why they are pink curtains in the first place. And then he doesn't like that bed. They tend to be a bit fussier in the sense, you want a brand new mattress and a bed because you want fabric versus PU that's half broken or torn. It's just unsightly. So these are things that we work back into a rental rate that makes sense in terms of recovery, maybe over say 12 months to 15 months. And it's a 2-year contract with an expat break clause, but all that costing needs to be worked back in. Same with houses as well. Maybe we decide on a base rental rate, say 10 grand or 11 grand. And then the max budget, say 15, 16 grand, then you get brand new stuff, including, auto bidets, change the whole WC to total, but the recovery makes
Wow.
sense. In 11 months, 8 months, 9 months, you get every cent back anyway, and the house is in better state for the next anyway. So these are things that I come across in terms of rentals. In terms of sale, then it's quite easy. I think I heard you ask Joe and Anthony about domestic friction. Usually my clients, I just say, listen to me, happy wife, happy life, and then everything is sorted out.
You heard that,
And then
Joe?
usually the wife,
Anthony? Yes.
10 years.
usually I like to keep the peace because usually the process works beautiful and they always thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
this is the
well put,
process.
so well put indeed, right? Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about budgeting, because it is very common, right? Once renovation starts at the premise, be it, office or home, then sometimes, one thing will lead to another. Hey, why don't I just do that as well and do that and do that, And then after a while, things go crazy. How do you manage things like that? Maybe let's start with Joe.
Oh, okay. Basically, for most project, we have come up with a budget, or we work out roughly how much to do this, and we need to keep on updating them, right? Because if not, then we'll be in a lot of trouble at the end of the day, because we'll get the blame. Because why you never highlighted this and not highlighted this, and now all of a sudden it comes up to another few 100,000 or a few, whatever amount. So we are not going to pay this, So we have come across situation like that scenario. So we learn our lesson hard, and therefore, whatever additional or whatever new that is not in within the budget, we keep on updating them. So this is the easiest method to prevent all this. Yeah, and also at least they know that how far they. It's very normal, I say, you get excited and then you want new things, Initially you budgeted for a cheap timber floor, now you want the most expensive timber floor. Initially you wanted a tiles, now you want a marble. It's very common. Yeah.
It takes a life of its own, right?
Yeah. It never ends.
Yeah, it takes a life of its own.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's a good story behind the term variation.
Yes.
When the owner was just telling the contractor, can you change this, you change that, change that. And the contractor just kept doing it. And then finally the contractor put the bill in, and then he says, but you didn't tell me there was an impact.
Yes.
It's going to cost more, So it takes a life of its own, When after, especially when you've renovated certain parts of it, it looks nice. Then you go, oh, maybe that part a little old. Okay, how about we just add a bit here? How about we do this? So it just runs, and it just continues going on and on.
That's interesting. Maybe just gentlemen, share with us one of the worst experience that you've encountered, in terms of renovating or interior designing a home, and in your case, Andrew, maybe one of your worst experience arising from interior design journey, maybe for your client, and for you, Anthony, maybe the construction bit of it. Maybe start with Joe.
Well, sorry.
Yeah. One of your worst experience ever, in your career when it comes to renovating or interior designing a premise?
Oh, yeah, this goes back, I think, 15 or 18 years ago. When
you're a little bit soft, Joe.
Are you hearing me?
Quite faint. It was okay.
I think we lost him,
Yeah. Are you there, Joe?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I think a little bit of problem. Yeah. Maybe okay. Let's move on to Anthony while Joe fixes his microphone. Anthony?
Well, I guess my worst experience, one is as a building inspector, when we went and did building inspections and we completed the whole house, and then we found out that we went into the wrong unit.
Oh no! How do you gain entry? You trespass.
Well, that's it happens. You go in there because when property is new, a lot of doors are not locked, and the people are coming in, and you got the whole list of property that you have to go and do, so you just go into the wrong place. But that's for inspection. But for construction, I guess it's also fairly similar, where you go in there and you start demolishing walls, and you found out you're demolishing the wrong house.
Oh no.
Yeah. So those are kind of like, you go like, oops. You have to go back and fix it all up. Yeah.
Oh gee. Okay, that's bad. That's bad. Yeah.
It's like a real Mr. It's like a real Mr. Bean kind of thing. Yeah.
Joe, are you back on?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, a bit better.
Yeah, a
Alright.
bit better. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, my worst experience was the client denies that he signs off everything, despite having his signature on the sign-off sheet. So what his argument is, I signed to acknowledge I've seen it, but doesn't mean that I signed to acknowledge I accept it. That was
That's a bit rough. Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually, I think that was he's trying to severe whatever, that he's just waiting for a legal case or try to so
then what happened?
We initiated the legality, and once we started that, he start probably, I think he was a bully so so then he start acknowledging, so we kind of get it settled out of court, and of course we did not get our deserved payment. We only get half of it, but better than at least you don't lose everything So that was the so now we are very careful. It's a very good lesson. So we make sure we have a very, very big disclaimer. We acknowledge this and approve everything right in very in detail, because before that it's just a signature by owner, that's all. So we put in a lot of writings so that just to protect us.
Yeah. Costly lesson, huh?
Costly lesson. But I think it's the way he disputed is also amazing. I signed to acknowledge, that doesn't mean that I signed to approve, you see. So it's a play of word. It's amazing.
Yeah. Interesting. Andrew, what about you?
My side not so much. That's why that whole process of painting a mental picture of what these properties have in terms of potential renovation and ID and stuff, showing those live examples, whether it's video or pictures or actual visit, which is the best. I think that so-called accidental renovations happen very much less. But I think the worst one in the early days would be, for me, in my opinion, then to make disappear one bedroom or one bathroom. I think it's always a big mistake. It's just making it an extension of a hall or extra living room, or combining two rooms to one just because you want a bigger bedroom. Then a 4-bedroom house becomes a 3. I think that really zooms your property down to very limited buyer ahead. And I always say buyer ahead because I'm always building my kind of pipelines of how I upgrade people. So who says I can't think strategic? Yeah, but it happens. So that I think to me is probably in my opinion anyway, like some of the worst things that happen. Just making rooms and bathrooms disappear.
Right. Is it because it's too individualistic?
Yeah, in a way, and then kind of like the reason why you bought a 3-story is because you need 4 bedrooms proper with a maid's room. Suddenly becomes a 3-bedroom. One entire bedroom just disappears. If it's turned into a study, it's okay. That can be easily retrofitted. But sometimes it just disappears into one big floor plate, adjoining living room and stuff. It's like, wow, really? So again, when buyers come, they'll say, this is a 3-bedroom. It's a 3-story, but it's a 3-bedroom. Like I need a 4th room. Just rebuild that, wall, and it's costings as well. So again, building value and building rights, for future.
Interesting. Yeah. Joe, back to you. Could you share with us what is the latest trend now? What is it, that people are going after? Maybe we should split it into, I don't know, is there such thing as age group? or is it universal?
Well, the latest trend, I think now the latest trend, if you see retail and in residential, is a little bit homogeneous. The trend that is like, it becomes very seamless. It's a little bit of minimalist, right? Which, the floor very blends to the wall blends to the ceiling. Those are the latest trend that is kind of have that sort of movement. I would say some sort of what the latest book that from Terrace Transformation. There's a lot of still a little bit more sustainability influence. Still a lot of raw materials incorporated into the design for houses. So you see two extremes. Some are very homogeneous of outlook, and some are very tropical or sustainably influenced of approach. It's still very relevant till now, I would say.
Yeah, but you brought a very interesting point, about this raw finish, right?
Yes.
I think it's not something that a lot of people can accept, right? Even up to now.
Yes.
Because I remember many years ago, there was this award-winning building, given by the age, this is Haven, my dream home.
Okay.
So it was raw finish. So the owner was quite annoyed because she told me that after they got the award, they actually threw a tea party, to celebrate, invited their friends, and their friends asked her, "Hey, why isn't this wall painted?"
Yes. Yeah, it's true. It's true. I think it's that's why I said, like just now what I mentioned, right? For homes, personal use, right? Don't follow trend, because just follow what is your liking. I remember the same thing also. I was doing a project for this Tan Street, and at that time it was really trendy to have cement rendered floor. And when we actually did it in the Tan Street, hated it so much because why? It reminds him so much that during his kampong days, the village there, he's actually living in a cement floor. Hey, I don't have money, man. He's still doing cement floor for. So he doesn't see that as a trend. He see this is like something has lived with it for years. So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, don't go with trend, go with your personal likes.
Yes, that's for
Is
homes.
that what we're saying?
Yeah, for homes, or for property, I would say don't go for trend. But for retail, unless you're talking about retail, which is every 2-3 years, you need to renovate, to keep up to
refresh your look, right?
refresh, right? So you follow trend.
Yeah.
Obviously, even colors, you follow trends. Yeah.
Right. But the problem is, if you ask somebody, to follow his heart, he won't know. He cannot decide. That's the problem, right?
Yeah. That's why you need an architect, you need an interior designer to do the
I
work.
knew that was coming. I knew that was coming.
And you have the wife work with the architect, yeah.
Thank you, Andrew. Yes, this is a great guy, guys. Joe, Anthony, please. Yeah, listen. Yeah, I think, maybe for you is tell us about your personal preference, because you have seen a lot of buildings. You have seen the ins and outs of building. What is it that have stayed with you over the years?
Sorry, is it for me? Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah. Yes,
Oh.
you. And
I over the decades that I've been active in the hats that I've been wearing, I find that a lot of designs are very frivolous. They're very frivolous, and those are the things that they get dated so quickly, and then they get ripped out, they get pulled back again. They get ripped out, and even the replacement are just as frivolous. So I always prefer furniture that are not built in my mind. I prefer furniture that it comes, it's like our hometown, that our place where you put the food with what cupboard do you call that?
Meat safe.
Meat safe, yeah. It's like that meat safe thing. I'm not saying everything's like doing the meat safe, but it's a standalone frame. You can move it anywhere, anytime, yeah. So I feel that furniture, whether it's a cupboard or whether it's a wardrobe, I always prefer a made up furniture. Even today, for our own home that we live in, even my kitchen now is all stainless steel, which we built entirely that I can move it here and there. So all I did was just, I didn't do any changes. I just got it built in the factory and just put it there. And even the dimensions are such that, it can be moved in future, or somebody else could have it in future. So I think that's generally where I find that I don't like waste. I don't like that once you've done it, because a lot of these materials can last for many, many years.
Yeah.
But because of the trend, because of the way it's been put together, it loses its appeal very, very quickly.
Yeah, true. I think that's also very different between the local or Asian sort of interior design and also the European, because like what Anthony does, right, is actually, if you see in interior in European market, right, they actually don't have so much wall paneling, don't have so much built-in one. They are very well coordinated with loose furnitures around. Unlike here, everything you need to have wallpaper, you need to have wall panelings. So it's very different.
Another area is that I noticed that a lot of architects, they tend to put a lot of windows and sliding doors, maybe, due to requirements or something. Yeah, but there's a lot of windows, a lot of glass, maybe the facade looks nice, but at the end of the day, most of it are covered with curtains. And curtains are extremely expensive, extremely expensive. They're expensive to put up, they're expensive to maintain. And they don't put a lot of value in the space, because you're closing the window anyway. So I think in the sense that good architecture and good interior work really can avoid a lot of this kind of loose furnishing, if it can be done in such a way that it doesn't, it has windows, but at the right area, that you get the light and get the fresh air and things like that. Another trend that I've seen is the use of air conditioning. Everybody now is just saying, look, in fact, every home and every office needs air conditioning. And that, to me, it's a real cop-out. We live in a beautiful environment, and often all our homes here, you cannot function without an air conditioner. You almost need to have it compulsory. So I really particularly enjoyed some of the new homes, like now, especially the older homes. I think, Joe, we met in the book launch of Dr. Tan. And I think that there's been now moving towards natural ventilation, putting rooms that are no longer, putting the living room above now rather than the living room below. All this makes sense. Having an internal air well that is big enough that can draw the natural ventilation. If you need air conditioning, but you don't need it the whole day. You don't need it the whole day and whole night. So I think those are the things that I've seen that I wish that in future we can see better solutions.
So that's even more valid, these days, because
with the
we're talking about the COVID. Absolutely. Maybe Andrew, just share with us, the observations that you've made. What are the design no-nos, that you have come across, maybe?
I think in terms of the buyer's market, then for Desert Park anyway, again, I speak Desert Park because that's all I do here. Then most of the buyers would expect brand new anyway, unless it's up to a certain standard, which is far and few between. Especially houses that are beyond, say, 10 years. Very few of them would have that sort of level of renovation or ID that would appeal in a sense. But for rental market, then very different. Rental market, I tend to hand houses out back to tenants, new tenants. Very boring, very clinical, whitewash everything. It's like a clean palette for them. It's easy for them to then do feature wall colors if they want, and just restore it when they exit. Change some lights around. It just making it clean, habitable, and then of course all the defects sorted as much as we can. I think that's more important for them. And then Desert Park is all about the community within each phase. That's again a draw for a lot of people, more so than the nuts and bolts of the house. But for buyers, then yes, a bit discerning. Most expect brand new house, brand new life. Spend some money with people like Joe, So the expectation is such that,
Right.
Very rare, very rare. Sell something that is like, every single thing is in place and they love everything, because it ages a little and sometimes it doesn't age so well.
Yeah.
Over the generations of tenants, maybe lack of maintenance by the owner.
Right.
So
Yeah. So time is actually running out. Maybe we can have, just one round. We just go around and, gentlemen, maybe you could share with our viewers what would be your advice and the tips that people should consider and must consider before plunging into renovating or, changing the interior design of their homes. Joe, could you do us the honor by kicking off?
Okay, sure. I think for new buyers, just the idea is just don't get excited. Don't get too excited. I know once you have property, you get very excited. But what I'm saying is don't get excited. You start buying all the loose furniture, without even sizing up your own apartment or your own house. Then you realize that you can't fit your beds, you can't fit your tables into the space. I say, yeah, that's my take. Don't get too excited.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Maybe you can name 3.
Sorry?
Trying to get some free advice from you. Besides that, anything else?
Oh, free advice from me. Again,
2 more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, invest in a good contractor. Invest in a good interior designer. Don't get too excited. So there's 3 already for the meantime.
So you're not picking up what Andrew suggested. Listen to the woman.
Oh, that is the 4th point, definitely.
Okay, thank you. Anthony?
Yeah, I just want to dive back into the issues of safety. Your home is where you would sleep and do a lot of the activities. So I think it's extremely important for you to not listen to everything that your contractor tells you he can count him. It will get back to you. Believe me, nothing is ever what it is. So it's important for you to engage a good architect or engineer if you're doing renovations, and obviously get the right people like Joe, and also do your background check on the contractors, because there's no such thing as a Kautim one. It's very, very difficult to get good electricians. It's very, very difficult to get good plumbers today in Malaysia. So if you don't get it right, you'll find that they would come and bug you, and you're going to lose a lot of joy in staying in a property that's defective. And I like what Andrew is saying. Don't overspend in your property. Don't spend too much. You can always do it again or improve as you go. It's no point in getting too excited, as what Joe said, and deck out the whole place from day one and burst your budget beyond that. It takes a life of its own. So be very disciplined and be very certain about this, and work towards that budget and get the right people.
Yeah. Maybe Andrew, what would you advise your clients? Just bought a home.
Yeah, I think in terms of buyers, then I think we've all gone through the near-death experience with COVID. So live a little, and as pointed out, don't overspend, but yet do the homework. Go see houses. Ask your agents, like someone like me who has access pretty much all around. See what to do and what not to do. It's equally important to see what to do and what not to do, because these are cookie cutter homes anyway. There's only that much you can do. So I think it's good to try and visit those if you can. And then, of course, for renters, then worst come to worst, I think IKEA is the standard, neutral. Rather than that polka dot sofas and stuff. Something neutral, very acceptable across the board.
Yes.
Yeah, correct. Yes. So things like this, I think will avert a lot of heartache and unnecessary expense. So do a bit of homework, speak to your agents who value add a little, and speak to designers, and just get some views. But just keep it simple, essentially.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Anything else to add, gentlemen? Anyone? Any last word? Anything else to add? No? Yes, Joe, you want to say something? No?
Oh, okay. No,
Yeah.
Andrew was saying, this pink curtain and polka dot, right? So if you do not know what color to match, go with the safest color. It never goes wrong. Go with gray, light gray, because light gray would matches anything. So that's the little tips.
That's good. You said light gray, not dark
Yeah,
gray.
light gray, not light gray, because dark gray would make the space smaller. So
Yeah.
if you do not know what color to choose, besides white and black, just go light
Yeah.
gray. Light
Yeah.
gray
So
would
if
match
they, if
any.
they don't know what light gray looks like, just look at my hair, right?
Yours is silver. Yours is silver, Anthony.
Yeah. Okay. What about like walls? What would be the safest? I'm not sure. I mean, people, when they come to the crux, they have to make a decision. Sometimes it's very difficult, right? What would you advise them?
Off-white creams, there's always the safest off-white or cream colors. Lily, you always find this tone in a lot of other Nippons or whatever brand paints that you can get. So those are the neutral colors. So it's always a safe bet. Yeah, it will never go wrong.
Yeah, I would like to add a bit on that,
Yeah.
in the sense that if you're going to choose a color, try to choose one the standard color. Don't try to get one fancy one that you have to special mix. Yeah.
Yes.
Try to get a standard color. Say if you're choosing Nippon, get a standard color, so that you don't have to go and get one to come and match. Then you have to paint the whole
exactly.
section.
Yes.
Yeah. The ever practical Anthony.
Yes, I think it's very sound advice, because even like with those mixture of paint, even you get back the same coat, when you apply it after some time, you will see a lot of different tonality. So if you go to the standard one, you won't see a lot of tonality, even you apply the new one.
Yeah, sure. Yes. Thank you. Those are invaluable tips. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your contribution, for your sharing.
Thank you.
Very interesting. I've learned a lot from this session. And hopefully, our viewers remember and, take away the lessons learned as you have shared them. Of course, a report on tonight's discussion will be out on our website, hprop.my tonight, and the detailed report will be out in our e-weekly this coming Friday, and that copy can be downloaded from our website as well. Yes, and with that, gentlemen, thank you once again, and stay safe, and happy renovating for yourself or for your client. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Good night.